Games Workshop has recently announced that they'll be releasing 30 new detachments for Warhammer 40k during the month of December. This is great news for all those factions still waiting on their codex, providing extra new options to try out and potentially shifting the meta in really interesting ways. We've previously seen how the Sky Splinter Assault detachment briefly helped to give Drukhari players not named Scary a chance at being more competitive, until that was quickly deemed to just be far too much fun for the Dark Kin and promptly nerfed. But if these new detachments the Games Workshop are making are similarly fun and thematic, I'm very much looking forward to see what they have to bring to the table. This is especially good news for Deathwatch players who finally have something to celebrate, as one of the upcoming detachments is confirmed to be Deathwatch themed. There's also going to be one detachment per Chaos God for Chaos Demons, which is good, but in a typical Tzeentchian bargain, this may come at a price, as there is a speculation that this might be the end of the Demons Codex as they get folded into the 4 God-themed Chaos Marine books. This might be the case, it might not, but I invite all 3 of you 40k Chaos Demons players to scream into the void that is the comment section. Hey, at least you can pivot to Age of Sigmar. You should try Spearhead, it's very good. But having to wait to be drip-fed 1 detachment a day for the whole of December is so slow. And you have no idea when your army's detachment will be revealed, so you could be waiting until near Christmas to actually get something good. In today's world of instant gratification, that is unacceptable. And so I have taken it upon myself, as the generous and gracious person that I am, to provide you all with 30 detachments spanning all of the armies in 40k. And by taking it upon myself, I of course mean that I asked ChatGPT to do it, because it sounded like a lot of effort after I've been trying to make just 1 for the past few months. I mean, in this day and age, why wait for a well-constructed and prepared gourmet meal when you can be presented with the finest Porter's Ballast of quality AI slop right now? This is the future, where the joy and soul of human creativity and artistic pursuit has been sucked out and automated, leaving us free to do the more important fulfilling things like mindless consumerism. Hey, speaking of, it's sponsored. As of this recording, the one thing that AI can't take away from you is painting your minis, and you'll want to protect those beautifully painted minis from any robot uprising with a sturdy model case from Tabletop Stronghold. Tabletop Stronghold is a small business creating MDF cases and terrain run by a single wizard from West Virginia who uses the power of magnets to keep your minis secure. Magnets 2.0 comes with adjustable trays to fit minis of any size, safe for transport, storage, or cyborg attacks. These cases are so strong they can be doubled up as a stepladder, and they can even withstand having the animated facsimile of a lanky British man dropped onto it for the purposes of having a continuous narrative during ad reads. Right now, there is 40% off their Black Friday sale, and there's free shipping to the USA, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and most of the EU. So go right now to tabletopstronghold.com or click the links in the description to get your hands on an MDF case or terrain. Thank you once again, Tabletop Stronghold, for sponsoring. I asked ChatGPT for 30 new detachments for Warhammer 40k, including 6 stratagems, 4 enhancements, and a detachment rule. I specified that this should be Warhammer 40k 10th edition, which it kind of understood sometimes, and I asked it to make sure that there was 1 for every single army in the game, 1 of which of these should be Deathwatch, and 4 should be 1 for each of the Chaos Gods. So, let's get through this. Here are 30 detachments for you to use in 40k that are guaranteed to bring fun and excitement to your games. Warning, all this bad stuff does not guarantee that these detachments will be fun, balanced, or make any sense, and cannot be held responsible for any issues, arguments, or brawls that occur as a result of using the rules of the real game. Number 1, Astra Militarum, Iron Bastion detachment. You gain the ability to use Overwatch even when charged, and reduce incoming AP by 1 when in cover. The cover part is actually quite nice, it basically doubles up how much you get from cover, but the first part of this I assume means you can Overwatch even if things have charged you and you're in melee? Sure, I guess. And some of these stratagems are... For example, fortified positions, 1 CP, infantry gain +1 to save rolls in cover for a turn. So it's 1 CP to do literally nothing because cover already gives you that. But don't worry, to make up for that, counter-attack drill, an infantry unit can charge after overwatching. I assume this also means out of phase. That's ridiculous. For 1 CP, you can also place a barricade within 6 inches of an officer at the start of your command phase. AI surely be cooking. Number 2, Adeptus Sororitas, Martyr's Zeal, which is a great name. When a unit is destroyed, another within 12 inches gains +1 to hit and wound in the next phase. I'm going to give you a moment for those who play 40k to work out why that is absolutely fucking terrible. For those who don't play 40k, the next phase after you've destroyed something is generally either the charge phase or the end of the turn. But hey, if you destroy a unit in your shooting phase, don't worry. Another unit within 12 inches gets +1 to hit and wound in the charge. This is something that comes up a lot as well in the enhancements. Grants +1 leadership and objectives secured to the bearer's unit. Not +1 to leadership rolls, +1 leadership. This happens a lot. Hey, you got one of the best stratagems in the game though, Fiery Retribution with 2 CP. When a unit dies, it deals D3 mortal wounds to nearby enemies. There's no range on this, so every time anything dies, it does D3 mortal wounds to everything. It can just everything, I guess. Does it even have a line of sight? Number 3, Necrons Eternal Overwatch, which is aptly named because units can fire Overwatch multiple times per turn, but at a +1 CP cost for subsequent uses. Don't see this one getting that much play. Unless you just happen to have a lot of CP built up, which isn't impossible, but to get 3 Overwatches in a turn, you'd need 6 CP. Maybe. It doesn't actually say it increases every single time. It's just +1 CP for subsequent uses, not per subsequent use. So maybe it's only 5. Resurrection Circuitry I thought was pretty bad originally because I thought it was just reanimation protocols, but it does say D3 models, not D3 wounds. So you could bring back, say, D3 heavy locust destroyers, which is actually pretty good. Also, Void Blight Matrix, one of the best things in the game, clearly, is enemies within 3 inches take -1 to advance and charge rolls. Don't think the -1 to a charge roll within 3 inches is going to do much for you. Tau Empire Mont'ka Rapid Assault Detachment. Units had +2 to advance rolls and can still shoot when advancing, but a -1 to hit. Basically, I guess this is old assault rules. For 10th, I guess you just have this give all of your weapons assault or something. I'd love to know what blast damage is. I assume that just means the blast keyword, but blast damage sounds cool. Orks. WAAAGH! Blitzkrieg detachment. All vehicles gain +2 inches to movement and auto wound on unmodified hit rolls of 6 when charging, which is lethal hits, which it does know about. The AI has actually mentioned lethal hits and other things, but for some reason it just didn't here. Oh, this is one of the ones where I think actually ChatGPT really was doing something cool. Grot diversion. Redirect Overwatch fire from an enemy unit to a nearby grot unit. That is really cool. Well done, ChatGPT. You did something pretty good there. Chaos Demons, Nurgles, Rotborn, Legion. Units with this rule gain a 5-up feel no pain and reduce incoming damage by 1 to a minimum of 1. Very good, very Nurgle, very resilient. Putrid resilience. A good name as well. Pretty good stuff across the board on this one. Shame out Tzeentch's Arcane Conclave, which for some reason still has psychic tests involved.
You hear that? It's the winds of change.
Huh?
This is something else that's going to come up a lot. Even though it knows it's 10th edition, has used 10th edition things like lethal hits, it still thinks there's a psychic phase. Yeah, okay, the second half of the detachment rule is completely worthless, but at least the first half gives all units a 4-up invuln save. That'd be great for all those Tzeentch demons that have a 4-up invuln save by default. Slaanesh's Exquisite Host gives units a +1 to advance and charge rolls, and melee attacks gain precision when targeting characters. So, those who don't know, precision helps it when you're targeting a unit with a character inside of it. So you could target the unit and then get those attacks to hit the character. If you're already targeting a character, you don't need precision. But okay, this is just ChatGPT not being able to word anything properly, so we can just say that melee gets precision. Also, for 1 CP, you can subtract 1 from enemies' Overwatch rolls targeting this unit. A roll that has to hit on a 6, and 6 is auto hit, so thanks. Time for Drukhari with the Torturer's Delight Detachment. Agonizing Onslaught. Units reroll wound rolls of 1 in melee. For each wound inflicted, gain 1 pain token for a max of 5 per phase. Look, not everyone plays Drukhari, so they might not know how good this is. As someone who does play Drukhari, I can tell you this is completely and utterly absurdly broken. It's for wounds inflicted, so not even dealing damage, just getting the wound roll through with reroll wounds of 1. Basically, every time you're doing melee, you're getting 5 free pain tokens, which is your main thing. Normally, you get 1 for killing a unit. Killing a unit gives you 1. Just doing 5 wounds gets you 5. I think ChatGPT is doing something really good here. Games Workshop, you should look into this. And even more broken is Soul Snare. Once per turn on a kill roll of 6, deal additional D3 mortal wounds. What's a kill roll, you ask? Not a clue. And here's the other problem with ChatGPT not really wording things very fully, just kind of giving you a brief overview. If you read them as written, Pain Catalyst is just right. The bearer's unit gains +1 strength after causing 5 wounds. Doesn't say once, it just says after causing 5 wounds. So every 5 wounds you cause, again, not damage, just getting the wound through gets you +1 strength to the unit. You gotta give leniency to kind of word it how it should be played, rules as intended rather than rules as written. But rules as written is very funny for this one. This is infinite scaling, which is hilarious. Grey Knights and the Purifying Light Detachment. All melee attacks counter psychic weapons. Great! And deal 1 mortal wound on them 5 wound rolls of 6. That's quite nice. And then a lot of updated psychic stuff that's just not that interesting. Tyranids, Hive, Spire, Tyrant Detachment. Silence creatures protect their aura additional 6 inches. Pretty good. And units under this aura re-roll hit rolls of 1 in melee. That's actually a reasonable and thematic thing. I like that. I'm pretty sure you could do something dodgy with Endless Evolution because it doesn't really specify what unit you can add, so you're essentially getting a free unit equal to 1/3 of the destroyed value. So take a big thing. I don't know. Space Wolves. Wrath of the Thunderhowl. Units gain +1 strength and attack when they charge. Are charged will form a heroic intervention. Not bad and kind of cool. Relentless Pursuit giving you an additional D6 inches after completing a charge. Less cool and kind of useless. But just say you don't have to end the turn in anything charged. You can charge something and then move D6 into another thing. Also, again, instances of not using leadership properly, subtracting 1 for enemy leadership is a good thing for them. Dark Angels, Blade of Redemption. The names, I will say, the name's very cool. Units reroll hits of 1 when targeting the enemy unit that killed or wounded a friendly model this turn. For that, maybe 1 CP to have Dark Angels units ignore invulnerable saves is a bit much. But what do I know? I tried to give Devastator's insurance indirect hits, so clearly I have no idea how to balance anything. Deathwatch, Xenos Eradicator Detachment. Gain +1 to wound rolls against any unit with the faction keyword of your opponent's army. so your opponent's army. For how concise ChatGPT likes to be, this one is far too verbose. This could literally just be 5 words. Adeptus Mechanicus, Iron Conclave Detachment. Vehicles and Castellan robots gain a 5+ invulnerable save and reroll 1s to hit. They already have a 5 invulnerable save, at least get reroll 1s to hit. Eldari's Spirit Seer Council, Ghosts of the Past. Wraith units within 6 inches of Spirit Seers reroll wounds of 1 and gain +1 to save rolls. Fairly cool and thematic. Well done, ChatGPT. This one is very cool, very Wraith themed, and even allows you to bring back a Wraith Knight. I'm sure all of your friends who love you for playing Eldari will love you even more if you use that against them. Chaos Demons, Khorne's Crimson Slaughter, Blood for the Blood God. Units gain +1 attack on the charge and deal mortal wounds on unmodified hit rolls of 6 in melee. How many mortal wounds? Stop asking questions. Now it's time for everyone's favourite hot new game show, ambiguous wording. Steel Phalanx. Infantry units gain +1 to hit when shooting at enemy units within their own deployment zone. Now, this could mean that infantry units gain +1 to hit shooting at enemy units whilst your infantry units are in your deployment zone. Or it could mean that infantry units gain +1 to hit when shooting at enemy units that are in the enemy's deployment zone. Or it could mean that infantry units gain +1 to hit shooting at enemy units when the enemy unit is in your deployment zone. Or it means the infantry unit has to be in the enemy's deployment zone to shoot the enemy unit within their own deployment zone. Cryptek's Vanguard. Units within 6 inches of the Cryptek gain +1 to hit rolls when targeting units with the vehicle or monster keyword. Very standard, not overly broken, not badly worded, just relatively fine. Once again, a lot of this is of D3 models rather than D3 wounds, meaning you can bring back quite chunky models. But other than that, this one's actually relatively fine. Tau Empire Advanced Cadre. Cadre? Cadre? I actually don't know how to pronounce this word.
Carder.
Wait, what the fuck? Anyway, the Advanced Carder seems pretty good, although units arriving from reserves can move an additional 6 inches after deployment seems strong. You could basically get 3 inches away from something and be able to charge them. Orks, the Red Tide. This one I really like. For some reason, ChatGPT does Orks very well. Possibly because Orks are as intelligent as AI is currently. Orc units reroll charge rolls and gain +2 to charge distances if they charged last turn. This is really fun. Great name as well, Unstoppable Momentum. Really thematically named. I really like this one. Basically, if you charge into something and kill it, in your next turn, your next charge is better. So it's all about making sure you have that momentum. I really like that. I might pinch it for Screaming Ravens. But ChatGPT is very, very creative. Here's another way it's got leadership wrong. The Thousand Suns, the Cult of Pyres. Infernal Conflagration. Units reroll hit rolls of 1 for psychic shooting attacks and add +1 strength to psychic attacks. Yes, absolutely, yes, please. I will take. Though weirdly, it's called Cult of Pyres and Infernal Conflagration, all of this fire stuff. When the Warp Flamers are the one weapon that aren't psychic. Sisters of Battle, Burning Vow. 6 at Feel No Pain and deal 1 mortal wound on unmodified melee wound rolls of 6. So pretty good. Chaos Space Marines now. The Iron Pact Detachment. Infernal Bargain. Once per game, a Chaos Space Marines unit can reroll all failed hit and wound rolls, but suffers D3 mortal wounds after the phase. This would be good, but because it says a Chaos Space Marine unit can reroll once per game, it basically means this only happens for 1 unit. If this was every Chaos Space Marines unit, this would be pretty good. Basically, you take D3 mortal wounds, and once per game, you can buff yourself up. I mean, you could read it like that, and you probably should, otherwise it's kind of shit. And realistically, this detachment's gonna need all the help it can get when one of your enhancements is for a different fucking game. Grey Knights, again. Nemesis Hunters. An additional mortal wound on wound rolls of 6 with psychic attacks. Very nice and Grey Knight. Some pretty nasty stuff in here as well. Very thematic Grey Knights. I kind of like it. It's Slaanesh again. Slaanesh's Mask of Bliss. +1 to advance and charge, again. But this time, rather than precision, it's reroll wound rolls of 1 in melee. So, slightly different. This one, I think, is possibly a little better than the precision one. They're both pretty thematic. Either or, really. Nurgle's Rotbringers. Units deal 1 mortal wound to each enemy unit within engagement range on an unmodified melee roll of 6. I mean, yeah, both the Nurgle ones, but especially this one, are really good. I actually really think ChatGPT did well here. Lots of stuff about dealing damage to things close to you, not being able to be wounded that hard, you know, +1 toughness. You turn an objective marker into a plague zone. For some reason, it forgot that a Fear No Pain exists, but sure. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Nurgle seems to just be one of the most cohesive armies that Games Workshop made, both for Age of Sigmar and 40k. Big fan. I'm such a big fan of what Games Workshop does with Nurgle that I completely missed after this entire recording and editing that ChatGPT didn't do anything with Death Guard. I think because of how the Nurgle ones came out, I just figured one of them was Death Guard and I just completely missed it. So here's a nice little interruption for you Death Guard players out there who want to have something new. And by something new, I mean the exact same thing you already do. Okay, we're not exactly the same. The Plague Host detachment here with Relentless Corruption gives enemy units -1 to their toughness within contagion range. But it also says it gives you +1 to wound against things in contagion range, so really that is what your detachment was. But again, like I say, everything else here is actually pretty good, pretty Death Guardy, pretty Nurgly, all about being tanky or dealing damage to things around you, spreading that sickness. And with Putrid Barrage, you can reroll all hit rolls for a ranged weapon for a Plague Burst Crawler or a similar unit. What counts as a similar unit to the Plague Burst Crawler? Well, that's where ChatGPT wants you to argue incessantly with your opponent, so good luck with that one. On the flip side, ChatGPT seems to just think that Tzeentch should be playing 9th edition because Tzeentch's Architects of Change, which is a good name, is basically all psychic test stuff. Leagues of Votann, Stoneforge Brotherhood. You ignore leadership modifiers and gain +1 to save rolls against range attacks, and a lot of just kind of tanky stuff. There's something here about, stubborn defenders doubling the model count, so objective control. This is just it. And across the board, very cool thematic and interesting one for the Leagues of Votann. And finally, Space Marines, Vanguard Infiltration. Units with this rule can deploy anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from enemy models during deployment. Additionally, they gain +1 to hit against targets that haven't moved this turn. What? This is basically saying if you go first, you win. Because if you don't go first, your enemy is probably likely to have moved, and also you're next to them and they'll just kill you. Hey, but don't worry, you could give your Warlord stealth and let units within 6 inches ignore Overwatch when you could deploy 9 inches away from them. Oh, and just because, I guess, you can also destroy terrain, which means your opponent is not safe. They are not safe. You are not safe. And there. Thank you, ChatGPT, for those 30 detachments. Weren't they great? Astute viewers amongst you might realize that ChatGPT has somehow completely failed and has missed 4 armies. Well, technically 5, but who cares about Agents of Imperium? So anyway, I asked ChatGPT for some more. I wanted all of the armies to be represented, and I also wanted one more for Drukhari because I played Drukhari and I thought it'd be fun, and just one more Space Marine one because Space Marines are pretty popular. They probably could do with another one. Unfortunately, when I generated this, my free whatever tokens for their super cool 4.0 ChatGPT version ran out. And so these ones are incredibly stupid, but very funny. Brood Brothers Deception for the Twisted Horde. At the start of the game, you can select up to 2 units from your opponent's army to have their leadership reduced by 1 for the first 2 turns of the game. This is possibly the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. That's related to 40k. I don't want to be too hyperbolic. Chaos Knights, Heretical Might for the House of Corruption. Chaos Knights gain +1 strength, +1 toughness when within 12 inches of a friendly Chaos Demons unit. You can also get an enhancement to make you count as a demon engine for the purposes of abilities and stratagems, of which none of them mention demon engines. Also, none of these enhancements or stratagems have anything else to do with Chaos Demons. Like, literally, just replace that with War Dog. And it'd probably be completely broken, but at least be something. Imperial Knights, the Order of the Templars. Imperial Knights had +1 to their invulnerable saves within 6 inches of a friendly character model. That one is very silly. Also, being able to give a knight +1 toughness of 5 but feel no pain is horrifying. And you can have a knight declare a second target for shooting, ignoring penalties to hit. I have no idea what that means, seeing as you can target as many targets as you want during shooting. World Eaters, the World Breaker detachment. This one's also got blood for the Blood God, because as we all know, Khorne has one thing and one thing only, and that is blood, and it is for a blood god. Also, the wording here is, well, World Eaters gain +1 strength and +1 attacks on charge rolls. Again, with these things, you have to take what ChatGPT says and kind of reconstruct it to build something good. It uses a lot of ambiguous wording, but you can kind of work out what it's trying to say. With the rules as written, you gain +1 strength and attack on the actual charge roll itself. On the 2d6 to charge, those dice gain +1 strength and attack. I assume it means you gain +1 strength and attack if you charged. But it's funnier to think that those dice are scarier. The second Drukhari one, the Cabal of the Black Heart, units from this detachment gain +1 to hit rolls against units that have a higher leadership than them. So this is basically just you are better against some opponents and not against others. It's not like the worst thing in the world. +1 to hits are pretty cool, but it is against things that are generally weaker. But don't worry, you can make it worse by taking Cabalite Conqueror and getting +1 leadership. Not to rolls, leadership, making your leadership higher. But I think my favorite thing from possibly any of these attachments is Raiding Party, 1 CP. Redeploy 1 Drukhari unit within 12 inches of the battlefield. And finally, actually this time, the Salamander's Fire Strike for Space Marines. When a Salamander unit deals a mortal wound, they deal 1 additional mortal wound on a roll of 6. I'm guessing this means that every time you do a mortal wound, you do a roll, and if it's a 6, you do another one. I guess that then means that you would roll again. So potentially infinite mortal wounds if you get lucky. Also, Master of Flames, fantastic. Re-rolling all hit rolls when using flame weapons that auto-hit. I mean, look, overall, these are okay. There's some interesting ideas in here, but it's not great. I've used ChatGPT before in some videos to get ideas, and I think it is very good at that. Taking some of these things and using them for ideas and taking some of the components is very good, but it won't be able to make an entire thing for you that actually makes any sort of sense. You spend so much time trying to prompt it to do the thing you want to do and have the wording correct that you could just do it yourself at that point. And I would actually be very interested to see if any of the ones that Games Workshop are going to release in December have any of the components for what ChatGPT says. Did it predict anything correctly? My prediction, and disagree with me if you want in the comments, is that I think it probably will predict some stuff, but only because a lot of the things within these detachments that ChatGPT has designed are very generic. All I can hope for is that Games Workshop have realized that the psychic phase doesn't exist anymore, and that they need to add the word roles to anytime they say the word leadership. But let me know in the comments your thoughts. Did any of these sound interesting or fun to you? Did you notice anything from the text that I didn't mention that sounds really silly when rules is written? And let me know what you're looking forward to seeing in December for your faction, to see what kind of cool detachment ideas you have. But for now, that'll be it. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this, go like, subscribe, all the good stuff. And if you want to support this channel even further, I have a Patreon or memberships or Twitch thing that you can join, like all of these fine folks. Your support helps secure the future of this channel, and thank you very, very much for all of your support so far. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.